Hello, everybody. You were very welcome to Successful Perspectives. Successful Perspectives, of course, is when we deep dive into the topic of leadership of one of our members from our very selective and influential network, Boardroom by EMIR. And for this chat, I'm very happy to be joined by Richard Fenne, a director of Woods Bagot in the Middle East. Richard, it's great to have you on Successful Perspectives, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Frank. It's great to be here.
So, Richard, Woods Bagot, a global design studio specializing in architecture, interiors, and master planning, with 17 studios spanning across 6 regions. And as I've gotten to know you and your impressive journey over the last few years, it's been something I've been looking forward to have this thought leadership interview. And what I'm going to do is focus on a number of questions to get a better understanding on your leadership. So for you, what are the main tenets of your leadership philosophy?
I think, Frank, I've always been driven by my passion for what I do. It's given me an overwhelming sense of purpose, which really motivates me every day. And so that's a key tenet, and also having a kind of positive frame of mind, particularly around growth and opportunity, always seeking out those opportunities for betterment, both from a personal, professional perspective and betterment for the business as well. And one of the tenets that I really strongly believe in is engendering a high performance culture, because I think that just has such positive influence and impact across so many facets of every business.
Oh, it's excellent. Passion, opportunity, growth, high performance. Like, how often do you reflect on this philosophy?
I think one of the things I've really got better at as my career has progressed and I've matured as a person is self-awareness, Frank. I think every leader has to do that. You can always assume that as you graduate through a career and you get promoted and you get better positions, it's very dangerous to become complacent. You really have to reflect on yourself and ask for feedback, and just also recognize your strengths and weaknesses and opportunities for development. I always saw myself as somebody who was a good communicator, and when you're inviting feedback, you realize actually, there's things I can improve on. I could be a better communicator. So whether that's around structured or unstructured learning, you're constantly sort of asking yourself, how can I improve? I think is really important.
It sounds like in terms of measuring your success, feedback and reflection are the tools that you use most in terms of understanding how that philosophy works for you.
Yeah, exactly. To a certain extent, I'd say that's true. But people generally, for me, are the biggest measure of success. And what do I mean by that? Engagement is really important. So engagement with my team, my colleagues. So that really, high engagement is a reflection of a motivated, happy workforce, and I think that motivation and engagement stems from the leadership team as well. So we spend a lot of time in investing in our culture and making sure that we've got a team that's incredibly well engaged, and that also permeates through to our clients. I find that when the team is engaged and they enjoy what they do and they feel rewarded and motivated, that our clients sense that. And I think probably lastly, the biggest measure of success is the work that we do. At Woods Bagot, we have a philosophy which we call people architecture. Okay. And that's really about being able to impact the experience that people have when engaging with the places and spaces that we design. As I'm sure you and many other people, you're constantly engaging with the built environment, whether that's at an infrastructure, master planning, city level, it's in buildings. People recognize bad design. It's often something which you intuitively experience, but actually good design is something which happens subliminally. And that for me is one of the greatest feedback loops, is when people are really enjoying and experiencing the places that we design and having that kind of positive feedback and impact.
That's excellent. Would you, like, on your journey so far as a leader, like, would you consider yourself a natural leader?
Um, I'll tell you a story. When I was 12 years old, I was at school and having one of those career advice sessions. And I had an amazing art teacher. I was very lucky that I was gifted at art and I enjoyed that subject. And I always thought I was going to be an artist. And I always had a propensity to towards mathematics and practical issues. I remember someone said to me at the time, you'll never make money being an artist. I mean, you could tell Damien Hirst that. And because of my sort of practical mindset, I said, well, you'd make a good architect. And I didn't really know what an architect was. And I brought a book by Frank Lloyd Wright, and I thought, you know what, there's one of those sliding doors moments. I thought that's absolutely what I want to do. And architects traditionally, in these complicated processes of designing and procuring buildings, often assume the role as the conductor of the orchestra. So you sort of gravitated, you sort of had to have leadership qualities. And I guess, in that sort of natural career progression, you sort of you imbue certain leadership qualities that are really important around the role, around communication and balancing creative and practical issues, and really sort of lead by example. And I mean, also something else that's been a constant thread through my life, and I know you relate to this, Frank, because you like a physical challenge, getting up
Yes.
mountains. Sport is something which has really underpinned the way that I've acted and my behaviors from a very early age. And I think there's a lot of parallels with, you know, how sport, the commitment that you make, the drive that teaches you resilience, your mental fortitude. And I actually went to a conference last week in Dubai, and somebody used an expression I'd never heard before. They talked about corporate athlete. And I really resonated with that, because using all of the behaviors and qualities that you need to fulfill big physical challenges, I think also give you great tools in the workplace as well, in terms of your leadership qualities.
Exactly. Leads back to the mindset, communication, resilience, discipline,
Yeah,
and ideally leading off the back of that, right? It's a really good analogy, because for me, they're really interconnected, either on my journey as well, Richard. That's an excellent answer. It's something obviously you follow from let's say, an early age, and over time recognize more and more that it was in you as well. But as a leader, and kind of in the modern world, as a modern leader, leaders have a great responsibility to not only, like, create a positive culture for their team, like we just discussed, but also to make a positive impact on society. Does that positive impact in society have a big responsibility on you as a leader?
it's very important to me, Frank. Something which I've always taken on as a challenge is sustainability. It's permeated the work I've done for more than 2 decades. And I think part of that is really recognizing the great responsibility that I have as an architect, and as a profession working in the built environment, that has on people's lives and the planet. So for me, it's absolutely imperative that we think very carefully about. I'm not just talking about sustainability from an environmental perspective. I'm also talking about the social and economic benefits that brings. I live in a part of the world in the Middle East where it's still, in many ways, huge change and development is happening everywhere, and it's such a rapid pace. And never more has there been a greater responsibility to lead by example and show that we can design and buildings and places that really answer those difficult questions around creating a sustainable future for our planet.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And Rich, I'm mindful as well that, like, from this interview, we have a lot of aspiring leaders that are watching this and taking significant notes on what you're saying. And before we shift into our rapid fire round, for everyone that's watching, what's the best career advice you have ever received?
Follow your passion, Frank. Do what you love. I told you that story about when I was a 12-year-old and setting my first step on a journey to becoming an architect. And I still pinch myself today. Now a global board director of one of the world's best design firms, and it's been such an amazing journey. And that was partly because I followed a passion. I love architecture. I love travel as well. I know you do. And when I was presented with an opportunity to move to the Middle East about 15 years ago, I seized it with both hands. And it's another great piece of advice. Really take the opportunities that are presented with to you, and take them with the absolute greatest amount of positivity and energy, because it'll take you to places you never thought were possible.
Richard, this is excellent. Thank you. I love the questions and your answers. These are the things that I reflect on quite a lot myself on my own journey. And you've given me and everyone here a good and great food for thought. Richard, thank you for your time. Thank you for being on Successful Perspectives. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Frank. It's an absolute pleasure. Really enjoyed it.